All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the SureTech Podcast. This is our relaunch of our SureTech Podcast after a decent hiatus for us, and we are back at it today with a podcast around the human element, training employees against social engineering. And today I have the whole crew with me: Jose, Josh, and Crane. And so let's jump right into it. Social engineering is something that exploits human psychology rather than technical vulnerabilities, making it one of the most pervasive threats in cybersecurity. As of 2025, up to 98% of cyber attacks involve some form of social engineering, often as the initial entry point for the more complex breaches. Tactics include phishing, which I'm sure everybody has heard of at this point, that has accounted for 70 to 90% of successful data breaches. Recent reports indicate that pure social engineering features in 25% of advanced persistent threat campaigns, with advanced fee fraud increasing nearly 50% year over year, which is, again, it's a wild stat that it just continues to go up and up and up. While global phishing volumes have dropped about 20%, due to improved email filters, targeted and AI enhanced attacks have surged. So in quarter one alone, guys, we've talked about AI on this before, with AI driven phishing rising by 17%. Smishing, which is SMS phishing or text phishing, has exploded by 250%, which I'd love to talk more about. We're just less vigilant on our phones than we are on our computers. Info stealers are delivering via phishing emails have increased by 84%. Even the World Economic Forum, their Global Cybersecurity Outlook of 2025, notes a sharp increase in phishing and social engineering, with 42% of organizations reporting such incidents in 2024, rising into 2025. So the technology isn't sufficient. Like, technology alone is not sufficient. Negligence is often tied to phishing, right, causing 98% of all breaches. We've talked about it before, where humans, right? Humans are the reason that this stuff happens. Someone has to open the door, and something that I'd like to plant in everybody's head is each of us is an entry point, and each of us needs to be a firewall that is maintained, updated, patched, etc. And so I've gone through a bit of the social engineering tactics, such as phishing. There's voice phishing, right, or vishing callbacks techniques. There's 23% of social engineering attacks in 2025 involved voice-based methods, often targeting privileged accounts, which are 66% of the cases. An example of this is impersonating IT support, right? And the idea that I could call somebody and impersonate to be their IT support to extract credentials in remote settings, especially. This exploits the weakened verification ability. Any surprises to anything that I've said so far? From you guys, with the rise in AI, I'm not shocked at all that voice phishing is becoming more and more pervasive.
Not on my front. As generative AI takes over and continues to grow and get smarter, things will become more and more pervasive when it comes to how it's utilized by threat actors in order to facilitate attacks. So the percentages are just going to go up, and people are always going to be the number one front that needs to be trained and basically, made, in some cases, made to be more aware of their surroundings. So no, it's not surprising. None of the statistics are surprising. I know, for instance, most of the attacks that have happened recently. I mean, you're looking at about 74% human interaction and error that has caused those types of scenarios to get blown out of proportion, obviously. So yeah, it's definitely it's going to get worse, especially if we don't focus our main attention on humans, because humans are still the most important part. They control everything. They control the front end, the back end. You talked about text messages and emails and spear phishing and all that other jazz. I mean, that's all aimed at the user, not at the firewall or the other infrastructure that's in place to protect your systems.
Yeah, I agree with what Jose said. There's no real surprise there. Um, we talked a lot when I was in the government and we did, counterterrorism. We talked a lot about raising the cost to the adversary for attacks. You want to make it as difficult as possible for your adversary to attack you. And AI really undercuts that on the cyber front. It makes it so easy for your adversary to launch a have the AI do the research, have the AI write the phishing email. Now we've got AI voice where it can do a voice call and impersonate someone. So exactly what Jose said, you're going to just see it continue to go up. We've gotten really good at the tech front. We have these wonderful encryption algorithms, hashing, firewalls, secure tunnels. Yeah, you're always going to have the 25% because it's going to go down, but it's always going to be there because somebody decides to ship a operational technology that's exposed to the internet with a hard-coded password and username. We're never going to fully eliminate that. But people are the weak point. Um, like Jose was saying, we've got so much on the tech front on the back end that you're better off just knocking on the door, running a confidence man style scheme, and getting them to let you in. Even if it's just getting them to download a piece of software that then lets you run your exploit. That's the human element right there.
And every attack that's happened, any major attack, it's all been via human error. I mean, there's even if it's back end error, it's human error because it's typically something that's not blocked, the firewall's not set up correctly, intrusion detection didn't work exactly how you thought it would work, and or on the front end, like Josh was saying, I mean, you get a phone call, you download something, it may not even be something that happens right away. It's probably something that'll fester in your systems and you don't even know. And as it moves along, and once they find the proper time to actually coordinate the attack, they've already got an entryway into your systems. And so all those firewall encryptions and intrusion detection systems and AI, anti-AI, they're still not going to be able to stop something because you've already let them in the front door.
And that's what I always say whenever someone does ask the question, why when I pay for a firewall or when I pay for antivirus and I pay for this and I pay for that, how does it still happen? It's like, you can put as many locks on the door as you want. You can put as many doors in between you and the outside world. But if somebody opens the door or somebody opens the doors, then, anything can happen. So again, it doesn't matter how awesome your door is if someone is going to open it, right? So next, I want to get into just various training programs and best practices that can help your staff, your workforce, your community get better at this. And, it goes beyond just quote unquote learning. It's about behavioral change, right? It's about personalization and the bigger your organization is, measurable outcomes. With AI driven threats like deepfakes and QR code phishing, training's got to adapt. It's got to be more real world. It can't be the same training that we were giving in 2018, right? So obviously with various things you can do micro learning modules, right? Breaking things down into very short, easy to digest topics, sending emails out to the staff, once a quarter, reminding them of various things. You can use various tools to automate these various ideas. But another thing to keep in mind is that all of this should be integrated with your internal security policies, right? The policy should drive how much and how often everybody does get trained and how often we, for lack of a better word, test our organization. Josh, you want to get into some more?
Yeah, well, that's it. We talk a lot on this podcast and internally at SureTech about the three pillars of a business: your people, your processes, and your technology. As Jose eloquently pointed out, the technology side is getting locked down really well. That just leaves people and processes. Processes are still human driven. How do you go about doing your job? How do you go about interfacing with the technology? And then the people themselves, what kind of training do they have? What kind of knowledge do you give them? Even, really basic stuff around who do you go to for IT support? How do you know that your IT support person is legitimate, right? That's all process driven. And then it's the people side of the equation is the training. This is who we have for IT, whether it's in-house, this is our in-house IT people. These are the channels they're going to use, or this is our, external contracted MSP, and this is who you reach out to, and this is how the system works. That's the whole process. And then doing training, at least annually training everyone, basic security awareness training. These are the trends. This is what we're seeing. This is what to be on the lookout for, and this is what to do. Right? Something gets your spider senses tingling. Who do you reach out to verify something? And if it's a security person, maybe it's SureTech, maybe it's another cybersecurity firm that you can reach out to and say, I got this email. Is it legit? Or you reach out to your manager. Hey, someone's asking me to do X, Y, and Z. And they can tell you, no, don't do that. Pause, slow down, breathe. Or yes, no, we were expecting that. You can do what the person's asking. And, if you want to get fancy, and I'm a big proponent of elevating things, year over year, is start doing live training, right? Contract with somebody who can do a phishing campaign. Well, they'll send simulated but real phishing emails, and then see who interacts with it, who reports it as phishing, who ignores it, who opens it and clicks on a link or downloads software or does whatever the email says to do. And then is your system working? Is your system not working? How secure are your people?
I'm gonna go a level above what Josh was saying, and I think the actual the beginning point, the entry point to everything, is the person who's manning the technology. The actual technologist is the person that should be trained initially, because if they're not running the systems on the back end correctly and they don't understand exactly what they're doing, then they can't pass that down to their people and to the normal average user that's at the company. One thing I've been reading number of publications is people that aren't trained, that are in position to be doing a job, especially in the IT and security front, they don't know exactly how to utilize the tools that they've purchased or had the board, purchase. So if they don't know how they're utilizing and how to work things, then they're going to have problems being able to push that down and to get buy-in from the actual users. So if something happens, or if they don't know something readily available to them whenever it comes to the technology that everybody's using, then people start to lose confidence in that person. And then, what happens. I mean, it's like sports, like if the quarterback isn't good, the team loses confidence and it doesn't usually end up well. So I would say that the start of the training would be learning how to use the technology that you have at your fingertips, knowing where things are, because there's so many, we're pushing things out, like a lot of, and I'm not trying to sound old here, but I've been involved in this for a long time, and it seems as we've moved along, things have become easier for our position and what we do, but they've also become more complicated. So They become easier because you can hire somebody to do this. You can go to a third party to do that. You can do all these different things and put these little jobs, specific little parts of the job at different locations, different people, different companies doing them. But when you lose sight of those situations, like if you're spread so far out, too thin, then you really don't know what you have in your to protect your company anyways. Like you don't know how to utilize it. You've been sold all these things and you just don't know how to put them in the right frame in order to facilitate having a good security architecture internally. And the training is part of that because you got to know what you're using, right? Like if you're using a program like SolarWinds, I mean, yeah, it's great. It works great. Suppose, it makes the job easier. So you're able to manage so many more endpoints and users than you would just manually having to go to each one. But you got to know, what's the reporting like? How do I deploy antivirus? How do I deploy this? How do I deploy permissions? How does all that stuff work? And there is a high percentage of new IT personnel that don't really understand how to utilize all the technology they have at their fingertips. So I would say that the first step would be is having the person that takes care of your technology, your security, your IT, that they are well trained so that they can push that down to the rest of the company, management, users, and obviously the board. You want to make sure that the board stays in touch with what you have and how you're utilizing it.
And that's a good transition there. Building security into your culture. Culture transforms training into the habits, right? Turning our employees into, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, into human firewalls. In 2025, organizations with strong cultures see 50% fewer incidents as per the SANS, the Security Awareness Report. Focus shifts from compliance to behavioral security, with 42% of firms prioritizing it amidst rising threats. Do you guys want to kind of delve into culture and what that means to organization security?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I know you had mentioned early, like the 2018 version of training and what we did back then isn't viable in this day and age. I have a different opinion in that because I don't think that we ever really got through with the holistic approaches and the way that we were communicating back then in order to effectively push that down to the user, to the people firewalls. I don't think we've actually ever made that complete jump where we're actually making a culture. Like, I don't think there is a culture to defend your company because it's just not been pushed along that way. Whether we've been boring in the way that we train, because that's something that you got to consider, because making it redundant and boring, they're already doing other jobs. Like, people are doing other jobs. They're like inundated with what they're doing. Somebody in accounting doesn't want to deal with, IT and security problems. Like, they just don't. They want it to be effectively not in their way. And if it does get in their way, they want you to be there when it does so that you can fix their problem. So we have to figure out a way to really push along our agendas in a way where they can actually not relate to them, but I would say be more inclined to thinking it was important for them and their sake. So yeah, I don't think all the talk and everything we've done since 2018, and I think even before that, I think we're still kind of just working along those lines, and we never really got through because we're still dealing with the same things we did even 15 years ago. Like, I don't think it's changed all that much.
I'm not quite sure who the we are in that example Jose gave. I'm gonna take the culture in a little bit of a different direction than Jose did. I think security as a culture, or a culture of security, is really important. And it's this idea that everyone in the organization has a role in the security of the organization. Some people would go so far, and I'm one of them, to say that everyone is responsible for the security in the organization. And that comes really from, and some people disagree with that. And I think it really depends on how your corporate culture understands responsibility. You can have a corporate culture of, fear, right? If there's a breach, if there's an incident, and it turns out that you end user were involved, you clicked on something you shouldn't have, you downloaded something, you gave out information to an unauthorized person, right? We're going to punish you, whatever form that discipline may take, up to and including termination. That, I don't really like that kind of culture. I understand it's very common. I prefer more a cooperative security one that says we're all responsible, in that we're all responsible in our own little sphere, that we do things the appropriate way, the processes that I was talking about, that we handle things in a responsible manner. And if there's an issue, our responsibility is to pass that along to the appropriate chain. So, to give an example here, I mentioned earlier doing like live phishing training. There are people out there who want to do negative. If someone fails that phishing training, they click on the link, they want to come after that person. They want obviously more training as remediation, but then also like it's a black mark on that person. That person's not secure. And what's going to happen is you're not going to get cooperation from your workforce if you go down that road. You want a workforce that's happy over reporting phishing. You want things to come up and you say, well, that's good. That's actually okay. Or that isn't, a malicious attack. You want a culture that lets people question in a verifying way. We used to say in the government, trust but verify. Somebody comes, oh, I'm so and so from such and such a place. Great. I trust you. But before we do anything, we're going to verify this. We've been talking a lot about social engineering. I don't know if I shared this one in a previous podcast, but there was a phishing attempt on a client impersonating the CEO of the company on Slack, I believe it was, to middle manager and person in a geographically disparate location. They did all the social engineering. I'm in a meeting. You can't contact me. Don't use my cell phone. Yada, 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 yada. And this company had a good corporate culture where the VP was able to say, look, I'm not comfortable with this conversation. I'm not talking with you on this channel about this topic until I hear your voice. I'm going to call your phone. And calls the CEO's phone, gets the CEO right away, says, are you reaching out to me on Slack? CEO says no. So, and end of incident. Nothing happens, right? Because the VP, the CEO, they had that culture that he knew he wasn't going to get in trouble. That's what you have to cultivate. You have to cultivate a partnership, right? No one is going to get in trouble for this. Everyone's got their responsibility within their role, right? So don't go start doing things outside of your role. This is something that we deal with all the time, right? Maybe you're doing a software deployment or a computer deployment. You're in charge of like asset management at a company. And then a manager comes over and says, oh, well, I'll take over the asset management for my department. Well, no, stay in your lane, stay in your role, leave that to the expert, as Jose was pointing out, the technically trained person who's going to do it correctly, and you focus on your job. That's a culture of security.
There's so much value there, like to a company, right? There's so much value in doing everything you just said. Like how much got prevented by that one scenario that you just painted. And I think that's where, again, when it comes to culture, it always has to come from the top. If it's not coming from the top, it's hard to expect it within the organization as a whole. And that's where leadership comes in, right? Whether leadership loves it, hates it, agrees with it, disagrees with it, the culture's got to get built from the leadership, and then it does move down through the ranks. And if leadership wants it, they're going to get it. So, any last thoughts there, everybody?
Well, yeah, actually, you bring up a really good point about security and coming from the top. And I meant to go down that road, and so thank you for bringing me back to that road. All corporate culture, and especially security culture, really does start from the top. It starts in the boardroom, who are holding the executive group, the CEO, the CIO, CTO, CFO, those guys responsible. And then to the wider organization, it comes from the C-suite. They need to believe in it. They need to champion it. And most importantly, they need to do it. You're not going to get very far as a company if you just come out with an edict, a policy, and you say everyone has to have MFA enabled, and before you log in, you're going to, use MFA, or some kind of two-factor authentication, a dongle, a code, whatever it may be. And then if the CEO says, well, I'm going to exempt myself from that, and I'm going to exempt my executive assistant from that because it's a pain. What you've communicated to the organization is that you don't believe in it. You don't think it's really necessary. And anybody and everybody who can find a way to finagle their way out of it is going to. Or if not that specific, security thing, something else, right? You've really got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Cliche as that may be.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the SureTech Podcast, InfoSec with the Three Hacketeers. If you got value out of this episode, please subscribe to our podcast. And for extra credit, please share this podcast with a friend or a colleague who may benefit as well. If you have any questions, want to get in touch with us, or want us to discuss a topic on our podcast, please send us an email at info@suretechnologies.com. In the description, it has links to all of our social media as well.